Hi, welcome. I'm going to be painting with watercolors today. This is a sheet of paper that I've already prepared. I went out the other day and I was taking pictures of birds. So I have here the source material that I'm going to be working from. The first thing I'm going to do is, well, I had been practicing last night, so I have this horrifyingly dirty palette. It's just a plastic plate, and I'm also going to take some masking tape, drafting tape, and tape down my paper, which creates a nice border and also keeps my paper in place. Now, it's been a minute since I last painted with watercolors. I last did anything with watercolors in 2007. It is now 2024. So this will be an interesting experiment to see how this turns out. So let us see how we do here. I'm painting all over with water. I'm not sure whether it's these brushes or this paper that I'm using that I am just not loving. But it's not spreading the water or the pigment quite as well as I would have hoped. So what I have is a mess, which I'm kind of trying to blot, make it less of a mess. It's not working very well. But anyway, there's some sky. It's a background. Letting it dry for a moment. Things dry pretty fast where I am. One thing that when I was back in school, there was a guy who had the most brilliant colors in his watercolors, and I asked him one time how he did that, and he said, well, I just do an underpainting in contrasting colors. I said, wait, what? You do a what? And he looked at me like I was crazy. Like, doesn't everybody do an underpainting? Well, no, watercolor, not typically. So I had always kind of wanted to try that. So this is me trying that. Mostly what I come up with, well, you'll see. It's a kind of a mess. I don't know if it's that I don't know the technique or the fact that I'm just layering way too much on there. I'm used to working at this point in my life with, not so much with watercolors, but with acrylics. And when I'm working with acrylics, they're water-based. You can work with them a lot like watercolors, watering them down a lot, letting what's underneath come through, but I don't typically. I just slather them on. And I make these gigantic, deep paint things, and I just throw paint around, and it creates this amazing cacophony of color. But you can't really do that with watercolors. And that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. It's not working very well. It does not help that the blue that I used in the background is a mix of aquamarine and phthalo blue. Phthalo blue is one of my favorite blues. Phthalo blue and phthalo green are some of my favorite colors, but because they make this very deep, rich blue and a very deep, rich green. But then they get everywhere, and everything in your painting turns about that color. They are, oh, that's where the dog barked and startled me. They are impossible to get rid of that color once they get in. So if you're going to commit to phthalo blue, you're committing to having a blue painting, which I forgot when I started. I did not want a blue painting, but that's kind of where I went. And so a lot of this is me trying to make it less blue. It is minimally successful. But we're gonna try. We're going in with some detail here. on our little bird. But there again, I'm just layering and layering and layering the color in. And that's not what you do with watercolors. You have to be very deliberate with watercolors. You have to have some idea of what you're doing when you start. It's not the same as when you're using acrylics or oils, where you can start with nothing and just sort of throw paints around until something interesting comes out. And I promise one of these days I'll record my process of acrylic painting. I do oil painting, but frankly, it makes entirely too much of a mess. Acrylics can at least be washed. I'm filling in some of the colors in the trees. When I was in class also 20 years ago, I had a really hard time getting dark colors into my watercolors. And I always remembered that. And so everything I've done subsequent, I've been working on getting very, very dark colors into my watercolors. My failure to get dark colors into my watercolors got me a B in that class. Well, that and lack of creativity. And general lack of technical skill. And so here I am with a painting that I don't know what to do with, so I'm just throwing some red on it to make it a little bit brighter, but by now I've pretty much given it up as a loss. The red helps some, actually. Got some extra branches in the background on the source material, so there they go. But I am not terribly happy with this. I can do better. How do I know I can do better? This is how I know I can do better. This was 2007. I don't have that skill anymore. But what I can do is remember how watercolors work. As in, you start with a white piece of paper and you work with that. That's your color. And you put the color that you actually want down first. And so I started again, painting the branch, because that seemed as good a place to start as any, in the color I wanted it to be, or something approximating the color I wanted it to be. I'm not super concerned with realism in this project, because it's me and I really do like just sort of throwing colors around however they look best. But the thing about watercolors is you can put the pigments down and then manipulate them on the page, which is what I'm doing here. But you can also do things with very fine detail and make very dark colors, which is what I'm doing here. And after I have my subject, it's a fairly simple matter of just kind of going wild with throwing paint around, pigment around, because I can. I'm not super concerned, like I said, with realism in this project. I'm just trying to remember how the paints work. Tightening up some shadow, getting some detail in. Getting some blacks and purple. This purple is always a good thing to have in ink. And I'll do the rest of the colors just kind of as they come. And there we have it. This one I'm actually quite proud of. I'm not super happy with the sky, and there could probably be some more detail in the background, little branches falling down, but where the first one looked kind of like a mess, the second one looked like a bird in a tree. And now I can watercolor, and so can you.